Part of the bridge in Nansha collapses after being hit by a ship, leaving 5 dead and 3 injured. Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director Xia Baolong in town for a 7-day visit. Hello and welcome to TVB News. We begin with a fatal bridge collapse in Guangzhou this morning. A cargo ship crashed into the Mu綫新聞 bridge in Nansha, causing a section of the structure and 5 cars come crashing down. So far, 5 people are confirmed dead with 3 others injured. The ship's owner has been detained. Initial investigations suggest improper operation by the ship's crew members. This surveillance footage captured the moment the ship collided with the Mu綫新聞 bridge. In the aftermath, the vessel is strewn with debris and cars fallen from the snap bridge. Authorities said the container ship, which carried no cargo at the time, was heading to Nansha from Foshan at 5:30 a.m. It hit the Mu綫新聞 bridge. A bus with no passengers, a motorbike and a cargo truck fell onto the vessel. Suffering a worse fate, 2 trucks plunged into the sea. In the press conference, Guangzhou authorities said the incident was likely caused by the improper operation by the ship's crew members. The ship has been towed away from the site. 1 minute before the crash, the ship was reportedly sailing at a speed of about 4.6 knots per hour. Maritime authorities showed the ship was fined 30,000 yuan for failing to have adequate officers on lookout duty when it passed through a designated area of waters last month. Rescue and relief efforts continued. The Mu綫新聞 bridge is the only bridge that connects the town of Wanqinsha and Sanmin Island. It's the main passageway for the 7,000 residents living on Sanmin Island to downtown areas. They include this woman who said her brother commutes to work every morning via the bridge around the time the bridge collapsed this morning, and luckily he did not use the passageway today. Temporary traffic arrangements were underway in the vicinity of the bridge. The Mu綫新聞 bridge was built in 1992. Former president of the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers Aaron Bok said the ship likely smashed into the pier of the bridge, which is the bridge's upright support structure. Losing the support of the pier, the bridge collapsed. Guangdong has seen multiple crashes between ships and bridges. In June 2007, a vessel crashed into the Jiujiang Bridge in Foshan because of heavy fog. 4 vehicles fell into the water, leading to 8 deaths. Here in Hong Kong, a 2015 crash between a barge and the Cap Shui Moon Bridge led to the emergency closure of the bridge. The director of the central government's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office arrived at the city today for a 7-day fact-finding visit in the SAR. Xia Baolong said the objective of his visit this time is to work together with local authorities and representatives of different sectors to plan the new phase of development in Hong Kong. Timothy Lee reports.
Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director Xia Baolong made his way to the city at around 11 this morning. He was welcomed by Chief Executive John Lee at the airport. Xia was given a tour of the airport and briefed on the 3-runway system project by Airport Authority CEO Fred Lam. Xia said the central government will continue its support to expand the SAR's aviation network and propel the city's status as a global aviation hub. He then left the airport escorted by police as he waved to waiting reporters. After having lunch at Asia World Expo, Xia visited the central government offices in the afternoon to meet with senior SAR officials. Sources said Xia's meeting with the city's senior officials was split into 2 parts. Chief Secretary for Administration Eric Chan said Xia is pleased with the work of SAR officials after listening to the government's work related to the economy, livelihood of residents, district governance, as well as Article 23 legislation. One of Xia's meetings was with officials in charge of economic development in the city. He will meet with the Legislative Council President Andrew Leung and some leading lawmakers on Friday. Veteran political commentator Lau Siu-kai, who's now a consultant to the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, believes Xia's visit this time is related to both Article 23 legislation and concerns about the city's economic development. Lau Siu-kai suggested Xia Baolong's extra-day visit this time, compared with his previous visit in April last year, will enable him to have a better grasp of the situation in Hong Kong. This will allow him to make a more comprehensive report to the central government, resulting in better policies for the city. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong government has been seeking to expand the individual visa scheme and other measures to boost the number of mainland tourists coming to this city. It has reportedly received support from the central government. Today, Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung said an announcement will be made when there is a final decision.
We have been in continuous discussion with our mainland counterparts on various measures to facilitate our mainland tourists to come to Hong Kong. And that's any enhancement measures will also benefit the Hong Kong tourism industry as a whole. As soon as we have some finalized proposal, we will make the announcement as soon as possible.
An Israeli minister says hostage negotiations show promising early signs of progress, but also indicating a ground assault on Rafah is close. Aerial attacks on the heavily populated southern city are frequent. 8 agencies are urging against this, saying disease and starvation are widespread. David Garrett reports.
Children gather around a car in Gaza. They are curious to view the aftermath of an Israeli drone attack. Some are not tall enough to see inside. The Gazan Health Ministry says 1 person was killed. The car is spattered with blood. A makeshift funeral was held later for the victim, one of nearly 30,000 authorities say have died since early October. Other images of bombed-out buildings in Rafah as Israel prepares for a ground offensive where well over 1 million Palestinians are living, many having already been displaced. The former Army general also said hostage talks are progressing. Initial signs indicate the possibility of moving forward. We will not miss any opportunity to bring the girls and boys home, Gantz said. Despite continued protests against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for concentrating on the war effort and not on the hostages, the Israeli parliament backed Netanyahu in a symbolic vote. Almost unanimously, 99-9, the Knesset supported his stance and rejected a unilateral Palestinian state. The United Nations Food Agency has been forced to pause food deliveries to the north of Gaza. The World Food Programme reluctantly withdrew because of chaos, violence and the collapse of civil order.
There are people who have missed meals for a day or 2 days or 3 days. They have severe hunger, but you also have people who have acute hunger. That is, they are not eating for a week. This is a temporary pause. We are making sure that we negotiate with all the parties, with the Israelis, and also the communities in the areas to try and ensure that when we bring assistance in, it gets there safely.
The organisation said an attempt to restart supplies earlier this week faced gunfire and hordes of hungry people attacking a driver. David Garrett, TVB News.
The Speaker of the House of Commons in the UK is clinging to his job after chaos in the British Parliament during a debate on the Middle East. More than 50 MPs have signed a motion of no confidence in Lindsay Hoyle after he allowed an amendment to a debate on backing an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. As the third strongest party in the House, the Scottish National Party was able to bring forward the debate. Hoyle, in a highly unusual move, allowed Labour to make an amendment based around humanitarian concerns. Labour, currently in opposition, have backed UK ally Israel in the war, but many in the party have Palestinian sympathies. Some Labour members have been criticised on their own constituencies for not being more critical of Israel. SNP and Conservative politicians disagreed with Hoyle's decision, which gave Labour MPs room for manoeuvre. Some stormed out of the chamber in protest, others heckled the Speaker, accusing him of bias. Hoyle said he did it because some politicians have received threats.
I have tried to do what I thought was the right thing for all sides of this House. It is regrettable, and I apologise for a decision that didn't end up in the place that I wished for. So I would say now that I will meet with just be quiet, please. I will meet with the leaders and with the chief whips and let us have a discussion on what is the best way forward.
And still ahead, no court ruling on WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's appeal against U.S. extradition until next month at the earliest. A taxi driver sentenced to 8 years in prison over a fatal accident in Tai Po. And moderate inflation in the city last month. Welcome back. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange won't find out until next month at the earliest whether he can challenge extradition to the U.S. on spying charges or if his long legal battle in Britain has run out of road. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Supporters holding free Julian Assange signs and chanting there is only one decision, no extradition, protested outside the British High Court building for a second day. This as two High Court judges said they would take time to consider their verdict after the two-day hearing in which Assange's lawyers argued sending him to the United States would risk a flagrant denial of justice. Attorneys for the US, where Assange has been indicted on espionage charges, said he put innocent lives at risk and went beyond journalism in his bid to solicit, steal and indiscriminately publish classified US government documents. Assange's lawyers asked the High Court to grant him a new appeal, his last roll of the legal dice in the saga that has kept him in a British high-security prison for the past 5 years. The judges overseeing the case reserved their decision, and a ruling on Assange's future is not expected until March at the earliest. If Judges Victoria Sharp and Jeremy Johnson rule against Assange, he can ask the European Court of Human Rights to block his extradition. However, his supporters worry he could be put on a plane to the US before that happens, because the British government has already signed an extradition order. The 52-year-old Australian has been indicted on 17 charges of espionage and 1 charge of computer misuse over his website's publication of a trove of classified US documents almost 15 years ago. American prosecutors allege Assange encouraged and helped US Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to steal diplomatic cables and military files that WikiLeaks published, putting lives at risk. Lawyer Claire Dobbin, representing the US government, said on Wednesday that Assange damaged US security and intelligence services. Dobbin added that in encouraging Manning and others to hack into government computers and steal from them, Assange was going a very considerable way beyond journalists gathering information. Assange's supporters maintain he is a secrecy-busting journalist who exposed US military wrongdoing in Iraq and Afghanistan. They have long argued that the prosecution is politically motivated and he won't get a fair trial in the US. Dan Rowell, TVB News.
The U.S. State Department has approved the potential sale to Taiwan of an advanced tactical data link system upgrade planning package at a cost of $75 million. This comes as a delegation of U.S. Congress members continued its visit to Taiwan and met the island's next top leader, Lai Ching-te. The delegation is led by U.S. Representative Mike Gallagher, a Republican from Wisconsin, and U.S. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, a Democrat from Illinois. During the talks, Lai said Taiwan hopes to continue to stand with the U.S. so that it can make the world a more prosperous and stable place. Gallagher earlier emphasized Washington's bipartisan support for the island. Gallagher said the United States needs to ensure the delivery of weapons to Taiwan and that a backlog of arms deliveries remains a big problem. In Beijing, the foreign ministry hit back at Washington. Spokesperson Mao Ning said China firmly opposes U.S. interference in Taiwan affairs in any way. Mao said U.S. arms sales to Taiwan seriously violated the One China principle, undermined China's sovereignty and security interests, harmed China's U.S. relations and peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Back locally, a 65-year-old taxi driver was today sentenced to 8 years in prison after pleading guilty to charges including manslaughter. The case involved a car accident in Taipo in 2021, in which 2 pedestrians were killed. On August 22, 2021, taxi driver Mark Puiwa was driving his cab along Quang Phuc Road in Taipo when he suddenly accelerated, jumped a red light and rammed into people on the pedestrian refuge island. Others crossing the road at a green light were also hit. 2 pedestrians died in the incident. 4 other pedestrians were seriously injured, including a pregnant woman and a boy. The defendant earlier pleaded guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter and 4 counts of dangerous driving causing grievous bodily harm. In sentencing, High Court Judge Andrew Chen said the defendant's 40-year driving record was not bad. Describing the case as regrettable, unsettling, and shocking, the judge said the crash unfolded at a traffic black spot where signs have been put up to remind motorists to take extra care, so caution should have been taken. The judge noted Mark appeared to have no intention to brake, with the brake lights on only 0.2 seconds before the taxi hit the pedestrians. The defendant gave no explanation to the court as to why he sped up at the time, the judge added. Apart from the 8-year imprisonment, the judge ordered a life disqualification from driving for Mark. The national security trial of former media tycoon Jimmy Lai continued today, as former Apple Daily associate publisher Chan Pui-man continued her testimony as an accomplice witness. On day 31 of the trial, the prosecution presented articles that describe senior government officials and some politicians as so-called traitors of Hong Kong. They included former chief executives Tong Chee-hwa and Leung Chun-ying, as well as local members of the National People's Congress. Today, the prosecution also said time-limited communication tool Signal was used by Apple Daily's management with a chat group named National Security Law Response Committee. Chan was said to be the person who suggested switching from WhatsApp to Signal, and she explained that's because people are worried about discussing sensitive information. Later, Jimmy Lai also offered to communicate with her using Signal, Chan said. Hong Kong's inflation moderated in January compared with the same period last year. Though price hikes eased last month, the government said the reason is related to the fact that the Lunar New Year fell on January last year, but February this year. The composite consumer price index for January rose 1.7% year-on-year, which is smaller than the 2.4% increase for the previous month. In January, prices for alcoholic drinks and tobacco surged 19.5%, while prices for clothing and footwear rose 3.5%. But prices for electricity, gas and water, basic food and durable goods also fell in January. Over to sports. Former Barcelona star Dani Alves has been found guilty of raping a woman in a nightclub in the Spanish city in 2022. The court ruled him guilty of sexual assault in a toilet in a VIP section. The three-judge panel sentenced Alves to 4.5 years in prison, and the Brazilian has been in jail for a year pending trial. Requests for bail were denied because the court considered him a flight risk. The 40-year-old has always denied any wrongdoing and can appeal. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.